on his supervisors, fatally shooting them. Following the incident, the suspect fled the facility. Police was immediately called in and secured the scene of crime.
While Rubaga asked for Dr. Besigye called off under unclear circumstances, Byanyima accuses President of pressuring church to postpone prayer service.
You want to call it political, it was non-partisan politically, because there were people from his party, there were people from NUP, top leaders of NUP were there. I saw their CP founder, he was there. There were people of all political persuasions, maybe even NRM was there.
And away from here, US-Iran tensions. Iranian officials say Tehran ready for nuclear concessions.
Brought to you by
Centenary Publishing House, the leading publishers of prayer and hymn books since 1977.
You are welcome once again. Now, starting us off tonight, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament has put the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development on the spot over delayed loan repayments, mounting penalties and trillions of shillings flagged as unwarranted expenditure in the 2024-2025 financial year. Our reporter has more. The Ministry of Finance faced tough questioning in Parliament as members of the Public Accounts Committee reviewed the Auditor's General Report for the 2024-2025 financial year and assessed budget allocations for the same period. Out of the revised national budget of 35.023 trillion Uganda shillings, 29.990 trillion was spent, reflecting a 94% absorption rate. Honorable Namuga Goreth, MP for Mawogula, commended the ministry for the high absorption level, but expressed concern over unwarranted expenditures totaling to 2.042 trillion Uganda shillings.
I think we commend them for that, though we take note that out of the revised budget of Uganda shilling 35.023 trillion that had been appropriated, UGX 32.980 trillion was warranted, resulting to an unwarranted budget of 2.042 trillion. And this was noted that there are some lines here that were seriously affected. Those are the commitment fees and debt servicing. Accounting officer, can you explain more about this?
According to the accounting officer, some loans are contracted but could not be fully utilized within the financial year because funds were disbursed shortly after the close of the fiscal period, delaying implementation.
2 loans, 2 pipeline loans that need to materialize by the close of the financial year. We had planned to receive this money, but by 30th June 2025, this money not materialized to a tune of about 2 trillion. And this was largely in respect to our, like you have said, our obligations to Bank of Uganda in respect to the treasury bills and bonds. But ultimately this money came short after the close of the financial year, and through a supplementary that we came here and was approved. This money was paid out to clear these outstanding obligations to Bank of Uganda, to the tune of 1.8 trillion.
He further outlined the implications of delayed payments, revealing that the ministry had incurred penalties due to procedural bottlenecks that slowed the settlement of obligations.
On the virtue of it matters really. When first of all, delayed payments attract penalties. But in this case, Bank of Uganda is a government bank. And also, we had clearly updated them of what had caused the delay. And when the money came, it was given first priority. We actually wanted to pay this money, but we thought if the money had been appropriated, these loans had been approved by Parliament that we could straight away go and pay. So that delay was caused by the procedural requirements. We had to come back to Parliament to approve a supplementary to allow us to pay in the new financial year.
Honorable Namuga raised alarm over the financial losses resulting from delayed loan repayments, citing penalties amounting to over 250 billion shillings and an additional 167 billion shillings. She criticized the losses, noting that such funds could have been redirected toward improving public infrastructure and essential services.
General, as you respond to this, honourable colleagues, if you look at the trend of these penalties, in the year 30th June 2024, they had penalties worth 250 billion, 200.983 billion. If one picked interest in looking through how much we have lost under penalties for the previous 5 years, don't you think that can be quite a huge amount of money compared to the way your budget performs? In response, the Accountant General assured the committee that corrective measures are being implemented to strengthen debt management and reduce further penalties.
You're right to observe that when you see the end of 2025, it went down. I also want to make a commitment here. Of course, this is not something that can give us sleep. We're working around the clock to bring these figures down. And I think as we close this financial year, it will be a different story. So we are in agreement with the observation that we need to have frameworks that are really robust to ensure that we don't incur these penalties.
The committee is expected to compile its recommendations as scrutiny of Uganda's growing debt burden continues. Now moving on, police have pledged to intensify intelligence-led operations across the country following a sharp rise in criminal cases, confirming that more than 1,000 suspected criminals were arrested in the past week alone. We take a look.
Criminal cases in Uganda reportedly on the rise, particularly violent crimes such as robberies and murders, with a notable increase in youth involvement. Recent crime reports indicate a surge in incidents within Kampala, Mukono and Wakiso districts, driven largely by unemployment, drug abuse and repeat offenders. Police statistics show that over 86,000 cases recently involve young people aged between 18 and 35, placing significant pressure on the justice system. The rising trend has drawn public concern, including advisories from the foreign missions, such as the United States Embassy in Uganda, which recently notified its citizens about heightened security awareness. Addressing the media in Kampala, police spokesperson SCP Rusoke Chituma said security agencies have stepped up intelligence-led operations to curb the growing criminality. He confirmed that over 1,000 suspected criminals were arrested during coordinated operations conducted last week.
The operations targeted known, or what we would call suspected black spots, hideouts, and narcotic hubs, with the recoveries of weapons, stolen items, and other exhibits. Of course, besides those operations, we also had some other, like fire and rescue services, where we also saved the juvenile who had fallen into a pit latrine in Masindi.
According to Chituma, 224 arrests were recorded in Kampala Metropolitan East, 510 in Kampala Metropolitan South, 3 in Kampala Metropolitan North, and 184 in Aswa West, among other areas.
In Kampala Metropolitan East alone, we arrested 224 suspects. Kampala Metropolitan South, whose headquarters sits at Katwe, takes those areas of Entebbe, CPS, Katwe, Kajansi. 510 were got. In Aswa West, 184 suspects were arrested. In West Nile, 14. In Savannah region, 102.
However, Chitoma clarified that the recent spike in criminal cases is not related to the recently concluded general elections, assuring the public that the country remains secure despite isolated incidents. He noted that the operations were conducted with support from the general public and other intelligence agencies, emphasizing the importance of community cooperation in fighting crime.
There is nobody who has done a scientific study to that effect. And if you had anything to that effect, it would be speculation. Because the offenders we are arresting, some of them, like we have discussed here, are repeat offenders. In other words, they have committed some offenses even before elections. So for you to claim that they committed offenses after elections, no, some committed offenses even before elections.
He also confirmed the arrest of a woman in Soroti who was allegedly found in possession of 261 passports, certificates of good conduct, and yellow fever vaccination cards.
Yesterday, we conducted an intelligence-led operation in Oruadai, that is in Soroti. We arrested a female suspect, whom I'll get names and give them to you. We recovered 261 passports, certificates of good conduct, and the yellow fever cards, which were being issued from her residence. We also found her in possession of URA payment receipts. She's in our custody, and we are pursuing more suspects associated with the racket.
Police have reiterated their commitment to sustaining the ongoing crackdown as investigations into the various cases continue. The renewed operations come amid concern over a series of disturbing murders, including that of 24-year-old social media content creator and businesswoman Diana Namlinde, also known as Diana Skies, who was killed in her Chanja home. Her body was discovered on February 4th, 2026. Her death was followed by the killing of the former Uganda Christian University Dean of Students Pamela Tumwebazi, who was murdered at her residence in the early hours of February 11th, 2026, alongside several other reported incidents. John Baptist Ahumza, Church of Uganda, Family TV News at 8.
Quite unfortunate right there, and thank you for the report, John Baptist Ahumza. Now moving on, the Uganda Prison Service has confirmed the death of 3 officers following a fatal shooting at Chiboga Prison, with the prime suspect, Wada Anguyo Moses, currently on the run. We have more details.
According to Frank Vaine, Senior Commissioner of Prisons, the shooting occurred at around 10 a.m. when Warder number 13544, Anguyo Moses, attached to Uganda Prisons Chiboga, allegedly opened fire on his supervisors before fleeing the scene. The deceased have been identified as Assistant Superintendent of Prisons Hope Catherine, the Deputy Officer in Charge, Principal Officer Wanakisuri Bright, the Third in Command, and Mrs. Ayebare Sarah, spouse of the officer in charge.
A fatal shooting incident at Uganda Government Prison Chiboga today, 23rd of Feb 2026. The Commissioner General of Prisons regrets to announce the unfortunate death of 3 persons following a shooting incident at Chiboga Prison. The deceased are Assistant Superintendent of Prisons Hope Catherine, Deputy Officer in Charge, Principal Officer One Akisuri Bright, Third in Command, and Miss Ayebare Sarah, the spouse of the officer in charge.
Vaine stated that police were immediately notified and secured the scene of crime, recovering the firearm suspected to have been used in the shooting.
The incident occurred at around 10 hours when number 13544 Warder Anguyo Moses opened fire on his supervisors, fatally shooting them. Following the incident, the suspect fled the facility. Police was immediately called in and secured the scene of crime. Joint operations are currently pursuing the suspect.
A manhunt has since been launched for the suspect, and authorities are appealing to the members of the public with information regarding his whereabouts to report to the nearest police station.
Although the gun used in the shooting has been recovered, the suspect remains at large and is considered dangerous. Anyone with valuable information regarding his whereabouts is urged to inform the police. The public will be updated on any new developments in due course. May the souls of the deceased rest in eternal peace.
This incident adds to a series of fatal shootings previously recorded within the Uganda Prison Service. On October 31, 2022, a prison ward at Bugungu Young Offenders Prison in Bwikwe District fatally shot 2 colleagues in what police described as workplace-related tensions, raising concerns about internal security and staff welfare. In June 2022, another ward at Kachika Prison in Mbarara District shot and killed a colleague before taking his own life, with preliminary investigations pointing to a domestic dispute. Earlier in November 2021, a prison officer in Mpigi District shot and killed his wife in a case authorities classified as a domestic dispute. Authorities said these incidents continue to highlight the urgent need for strengthened internal monitoring, conflict resolution mechanisms, and mental health support for correction officers. Investigations into the Chiwoga shooting remain ongoing. John Baptista Humza, Church of Uganda, Family TV News at 8.
Now, in other news, Winnie Byanyima has accused President Yoweri Museveni of influencing church authorities to halt a special mass that had been organized to pray for her detained husband, Dr. Kizza Besigye, and other political prisoners. Now, the mass organized by Dr. Besigye's family had been scheduled for today at 1 p.m. at Rubaga Cathedral and was expected to be presided over by Archbishop Paul Semogere of the Kampala Archdiocese. Addressing supporters who had gathered at the cathedral, Byanyima claimed that Archbishop Semogere informed her that he had come under pressure not to lead the service and to wait for investigations into its motive. We have the report.
The prayer gathering that was meant to take place at Rubaga Cathedral to intercede for Dr. Kizza Besigye and other detainees was abruptly called off by under unclear circumstances. Addressing the press, Winnie Byanyima alleged that the Archbishop indicated that the President wanted to first investigate the intention of the Mass, prompting church leadership to postpone the service until further notice.
I know that church will remain standing with us.
Amen. Amen.
Look at the priests lined here. They've come all the way from around Uganda, Kabale, Kisoro, different parts of the country. They are sitting here with their collars because they had come to pray. To pray for a prisoner. So we will continue to pray and the church will stay firm. I do not accept that Museveni should follow me in my church.
Byanyima noted that she has been deeply concerned about Dr. Besigye for a year, emphasizing that this was not the first mass she had organized for him, that it was purely spiritual and non-political.
If you want to call it political, it was non-partisan politically, because there were people from his party, there were people from NUP, top leaders of NUP were there. I saw their CP founder, he was there. There were people of all political persuasions, maybe even NRM was there.
Arias Lukwago, one other Dr. Besigye's lawyer, warned that if the higher authorities can allegedly influence the suspension, the same influence could extend to the High Court, including Justice Baguma and other judicial officers whom he described as lacking independence.
We told you we went before the General Court Martial not to get justice before the former presiding officer of the General Court Martial, Freeman Mugabe. Even as we speak today, the General Court Martial has been reconstituted under the leadership of Tukachungurwa, Brigadier General Tukachungurwa. We know there is no justice there. But once you are dragged there, you have no choice. You've got to appear, you've got to defend yourself. Our role before that court is to mount pressure on Justice Baguma and the team to administer justice in accordance with the law. And that's what we have always been doing. That they took oath to uphold the law, they took oath to adjudicate cases in consonance, in line with the Constitution and in line with other laws.
Leaders from the different opposition parties, along with some attendees, expressed disappointment and confusion over the sudden decision, saying they were not given a clear explanation for the postponement.
Ne mu ngeri esoboka okusabira mukadde waffe Dr. Besigye Mukama amubeere gyali mu kkomera aveeyo era tukkiriza nti ajja kuvaayo.
Ebitongole byonna yabyambudde naye tubadde tulowooza nti ati tusigazza church. Tulaba bulijjo nga bajjaganya olunaku lwa Jonani Luwumu era baakavaayo ekitugumu okujjaganya oba okusaba simanyi bye baba bakola yonna ebeera pretense kubanga teri ekyabeerawo mu kiseera kya Amin nga tekiriiwo kati.
Kereziya okujjawo omukisa ogwo olwa eddoboozi lya President Museveni yentandikwa y'okufa kwa Kereziya naye si ntandikwa yakufa okwobukkiriza.
President Museveni knows the power of God, he knows the power of prayer, and therefore he feared that if we go united in prayer, it might lead to our brother set free.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, a long-time opposition figure and the former presidential candidate, remains in custody as legal proceedings related to treason charges continue. His detention has drawn reactions from the supporters, opposition leaders, and the civil society groups who continue to call for his release or adherence to due progress. By press time, neither church authorities nor the organizers had issued an official explanation for the abrupt postponement of the prayer service.
And with that, let us listen in from the Archbishop. Archbishop's Moment. Sponsored by Uganda Christian University, a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. Join the UCU experience now. And
St. John's Wakiso Secondary School, where faith meets education.
The land we have belongs to the Lord. So when it brings fruits, the first fruits should be for the Lord. And so now, you people who are city dwellers, where is your garden? Where's your garden? Your work. So that is your garden, which means the first fruits. Hello? So it means that's why we are called even to tithe. So that we honor God with our wealth. Secondly, it is acknowledging Him as the owner. Acknowledging Him as the owner. We are just stewards of what we have. By the way, a steward is not the owner. You are keeping somebody's property. By the way, even this life is a borrowed property.
Archbishop's Moment. Sponsored by Uganda Christian University, a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. Join the UCU experience now. And
St. John's Wakiso Secondary School, where faith meets education.
Yes, indeed, it is salary week, and you have been reminded that you should give your first fruits to your provider. And of course, once you give that back, then prosperity shall follow you all the days of your lives. Well, that's the message for tonight. We are going for a short commercial break, but do stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. You are watching News at 8. Now, in today's Fast and Reflect series, we turn to the Gospel of Matthew chapter 6, verse 16, as Reverend Emmanuel Koboy, the Provincial Youth and Students Coordinator, shares practical guidance on what Christians should do and avoid while fasting during this Lenten season. Do join us.
Praise the Lord, everyone. My name is Reverend Emmanuel Koboy, the Provincial Youth and Students Ministry Coordinator, Church of Uganda. I want to welcome and thank each and every one of us who is listening to our great station, Family TV, as we begin this Lent season, especially this particular week. We are going to be talking about what is fasting, what is biblical fasting, what does God expect you to be doing during fasting, and how should you conduct yourself during this fasting period. I will begin by reading a text, Matthew. I will read chapter 6. I'll read from verse 16. Matthew chapter 6, that is where our message as we begin this week to talk about this very important subject. Matthew chapter 6 from verse 16, it says, "When you fast, do not look gloomy like hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, when they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you for that kind of fasting." Today as we begin, the Bible is saying that when we are fasting, my brother, my sister, when you are fasting, don't look gloomy, don't frown your face to show everyone that you are going through a fast. The Bible in verse 16 of Matthew chapter 6 is saying that we should not look gloomy like hypocrites, so that we show people that we are spiritual, more spiritual than them. Fasting is a personal thing between you and God. And so the Bible is warning that as we fast, let us not make our faces gloomy, so that you know when you are hungry, hunger can make you to look. There are people who look hungry. You can know that this person is hungry by the way they look on their face. And so the Bible is saying, don't disfigure your faces or your look or how you present yourself. Sometimes even how you walk. Because you are in the fasting season, you want to walk like you are hungry. And so the Bible is saying that when we fast, let us not look gloomy or hypocrites or disfigure our faces. And then it concludes by saying, "Truly, truly, I say to you, such people have received their reward, because they are focusing on showing people that they are fasting, other than concentrating on the intimacy between them and God." And so he says, then he says in verse 18, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your heavenly Father who sees in secret. Focus on your intimacy with God, your relationship with God. Focus on what you are requesting God. Focus on the repentance that you are doing during that time. Focus on the thanksgiving. Focus on the appreciation. Focus on that time that you have with God. And so, to summarize what I have said this evening, number one, fasting, when you are fasting, the focus as you fast should not be on showing people that you look hungry. You should not focus on showing people that you are weak, that you are not drinking enough, you are not eating enough, you are not feeding enough. Your focus during the fast should be on the interaction on the prayer, on the thanksgiving, on the meditation of God's word. That should be your focus when you're fasting this entire week. May God bless you as you fast and seek the face of the Lord. Thank you very much.
Well, that's it from our Fast and Reflect episode. Make sure that you do watch on a daily to get more episodes of this. Now, as we move on, the Kampala Capital City Authority has reported significant progress in the ongoing restoration of trade order operation following a directive issued by the Minister for Kampala to clear street vendors and restore order within the city. We take a look.
Unlike many organized cities around the world, Kampala has often faced challenges related to unregulated street trading and border operations, which authorities say have disrupted order within the central business district. In a move aimed at restoring sanity in the city, the government, through the Minister of Kampala, Honorable Misa Kabanda, on the 5th, 2026, issued a directive requiring traders and border operators to vacate the streets. The operation was officially rolled out at midnight on the February 20th, 2026, targeting the removal of street vendors from the central business district to ensure a smoother movement of pedestrians and motorists. According to SP Kasim Matovu, Manager of Security and Enforcement at KCCA, the exercise has registered a high level of compliancy with no force used and no resistance encountered.
We want to thank the people of Kampala who have been very cooperative with us. There's been high levels of voluntary compliance.
Matovu noted that the enforcement teams worked closely with key stakeholders, including border leaders, tax operators, and members of the business community to facilitate a smooth restoration of trade order.
Being able to engage different stakeholders like the leaderships of the border leadership, the tax leadership, to ensure we're able to regulate how they transact their businesses, especially where we had in peak hours where borders were riding on pavers. Now at least they're complying.
KCCA further revealed that intelligence reports indicated many vendors had previously abandoned designated markets, opting instead for street trading due to perceived high profits.
But as we drive them now out of the city, we are able to, be able to get people go back to their initial places of work. Those who had left shops are going back to their shops. Those who had left the markets are going back to the markets.
Authorities say the next phase of operation will focus on sustainable enforcement measures, particularly the regulation of taxi and border operations within the city. Meanwhile, KCCA Law Enforcement Officer Bale Wilson attributed the success of the exercise largely to the cooperation demonstrated by traders.
Campaign of trade order. So far so good, and we have moved very well. But the reason behind all this achievement is because there has been a lot of compliance from you people.
He dismissed allegations that enforcement officers are collecting money from vendors to allow illegal street operation, describing such claims as unfounded.
That mindset or that talk that is moving around, that probably these law enforcement officers have been collecting some money from these vendors, and that's why we are still seeing some of them in some corridors still, trying to hide out. It can, as a law enforcement officer, I will directly say it is not true.
Wilson emphasized that trade order regulations apply to everyone, including shop owners who extend their merchandise onto pedestrian walkways.
Amanya gange bampita Sebulibwa Roger. Akola display ku kisenge ky'ekizimba bakulujji ab'enzigi. Boti bawadde mu kisate gugwani sigadde nga bakola. Kitegeera. Kubanze ndi wa display. Badde manyi tugenda sigala nga tukola. Ate batwalidde wamu n'abakayiwa wansi ku ttaka.
Amanya nze Joseph. Naye KCCA ate tulaba ensusa ate ku kye yasuubiza okukola. Yagamba egenda goba batembeeyi. Kati ate n'abamaduuka naffe tuzingiddemu. Edduuka batupangisa edduuka libafunda. Bw'oteeka wano fridge wabweru ekola nga display. ate kati ne wabweru display yaffe ya fridge batugaye tulina giteeka munda.
To the shop owners, I've heard your concern that you thought KCCA enforcement is going to focus mainly on the street vendors and probably the hawkers, but we have also gone ahead to encroach on your comfortability. The truth is, trade order touches everyone as long as you are in trade.
KCCA says the restoration of the trade order operation will continue across Kampala as the city works towards a cleaner, safer and more organized central business district.
Now, the leadership of the Uganda Taxi Operators Federation, UTUF, has raised concerns over the implementation of trade and transport directives by the Kampala Capital City Authority. Now, in an exclusive interview with Church of Uganda Family TV, the leaders say they were not consulted before the directives were issued. Our reporter brings you more details.
The Vice Chairman of UTUF in charge of administration, Mustafa Mayambara, says that taxi operators were left out of key discussions regarding KCCA's new trade and transport order. Mayambara says that this prompted UTUF leadership to request a meeting with KCCA officials, a meeting that has taken place to address the concerns of taxi operators.
Enkola ennungi esobola okuyamba okutereeza trade order mu kibuga wandibaddewo ensisinkano wakati w'abakulembeze ba sectors ezikwatibwako n'abakulu mu KCCA era ekyomukisa omulungi nti meeting bagikkiriza era nitugifuna
UTUF is particularly worried about KCCA allocating stages to border riders within Kampala, yet according to the Federation, boarders do not pay taxes like tax operators do.
Naye era konsani ezo twazitaddeyo lwaki KCCA eyisaamu nnyo ababodaboda ebawe parking oba stages ku nguudo za Kampala bafe abataxi tetuwadde ate nga ffe tuwa omusolo mu KCCA ne mu gavumenti ababodaboda tebawa musolo. Ekintu ekyo twalabye nga kirinamu okunyigiriza nekyekubiira era tukyakiremeddeko.
The Federation also expressed strong opposition to KCCA's directive requiring all taxis to operate strictly from gazetted tax packs. UTUF leaders say they will not accept the move without proper consultation and practical solutions.
So tentatively, nga bwe tukyabatuuza mu local solutions tugamba era twasabye nti katusooke tutereeze wano obabadde bakolera wabweru oba wabaddewo emmotoka 8 oba 10 tuzikendeeze tufune waiting area ezimu 6 tuziteeke mu waiting space eyo gye tufunye awantu waiting area kakati zino 2 zibeerewo zikole nga bwe tukole enkiiko ez'okutabaganya abawabweru n'ab'omunda tubakwataganye kubanga mu kiseera kino nga tukyabatuuza
On the issue of taxis loading passengers on city streets, Mayambara revealed that UTUF has proposed the temporary arrangement. He says they have requested KCCA to allow at least 2 to 3 taxis per stage instead of the large numbers currently operating on the streets, as discussions continue on how to accommodate them in the tax parks. He described this approach as a local solution aimed at restoring order without disrupting livelihoods. Mayambara also emphasized the need to convince drivers already operating within tax parks to accept fellow drivers who have been loading passengers on the streets in order to promote unity within the sector. Additionally, UTUF faulted KCCA for failing to gazette stages along new constructed roads in Kampala. The Federation says that this remains a major challenge and notes that gazetting stages had earlier been directed by the President. UTUF leaders said that another meeting with KCCA is scheduled for this week to reach final resolutions on the matter of taxis loading on streets. Meanwhile, on the removal of hawkers from the streets of Kampala, Mayambara commended KCCA for organizing the city.
Kirina ebirungi ku saidi yaffe n'ebibi. Ekisooka ekyamazima Kampala abadde yamesinga abadde yayonooneka. Abasuubuza okuleeta ebintu n'ebiteeka mu kkubo kubanga fe ab'emmotoka nno tuli kalekale emmotoka ziba zivaawo naye abasuubuzi badde eno sizoni ey'okuzza abaana ku masomero badde baleeta ebitabo ziseeti biki byonna byonna ne bateeka mu kkubo bane ku lubalaza naye mu kkubo.
However, he acknowledged that the move has affected taxi operators in one way or the other. UTOF says it remains committed to dialogue and working with authorities to ensure order in the transport sector while protecting the interests of taxi operators.
Now, Iran said earlier today it does not support an interim agreement in talks with the United States and is seeking a swift, result-oriented deal focused on lifting sanctions and addressing nuclear issues as the two sides prepare for another round of negotiations. We take a look. Well, that's it from Iran. Let us have a recap of our news headlines.
Headlines brought to you by
Centenary Publishing House, the leading publishers of prayer and hymn books since 1977.
Tonight in News at 8. Warder Anguyo Moses kills 3 colleagues in a fatal shooting at Chiboga prison. Suspect remains at large as police call for public cooperation in ongoing manhunt.
The incident occurred at around 10 hours when number 13544 Warder Anguyo Moses opened fire on his supervisors, fatally shooting them. Following the incident, the suspect fled the facility. Police was immediately called in and secured the scene of crime.
While Rubaga asked for Dr. Besigye called off under unclear circumstances, Byanyima accuses President of pressuring church to postpone prayer service.
You want to call it political, it was non-partisan politically, because there were people from his party, there were people from NUP, top leaders of NUP were there. I saw their CP founder, he was there. There were people of all political persuasions, maybe even NRM was there.
And away from here, US-Iran tensions. Iranian officials say Tehran ready for nuclear concessions.
Brought to you by
Centenary Publishing House, the leading publishers of prayer and hymn books since 1977.
Well, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin tonight. We do want to say thank you for watching Church of Uganda Family TV News. My name is Hope Nyongereza, and on the sign language is Tonena Raymond. We wish you a good night.
Family Hour, empowering families one episode at a time. Together, we build strong, healthy, and thriving families with our daily dose of inspiration and expert insight